Welcome back and thanks for watching Channel 2 News. The head of an agency tasked with fighting for the rights for those with disabilities clears the air on how they can help and how they can't. Lanny Walker brings us this report.
Here at the Northern Marianas Protection and Advocacy Services offices, Executive Director Jim Rayfand and his staff work to ensure persons with disabilities are not discriminated against. However, he says there are some misconceptions about what their office can and cannot do.
People have come to us almost demanding that we make sure that they get housing because they have a disability. You may or may not know this, NMHC is really the only provider of Section 8 and other low-income housing. But again, there's nothing to suggest that people with disabilities suddenly have to go to the top of the line as far as housing entitlements are.
He says there is a hard line to draw between social work and advocacy.
Really, our job is to sort of clear the path of any discriminatory barriers that may exist for people with disabilities. It's not necessarily to hold their hands and make them do things. You know, they still have, our take is people with disabilities still have a responsibility to be qualified in everything that they're supposed to do.
He says they have worked on a lot of appeals for government benefits in the past.
And so I think we've gotten this reputation that we're the organization that's going to make sure that a person with disability gets their Social Security, or we're going to make sure that they get housing, or we're going to make sure that they don't get their power cut off. And really all we can base any advocacy we do is on whatever laws are out there that exist. The misconception is that you have a disability that now NMPASI can go in and say, put them in first. And that's really just not the case.
Rather, NMPASI focuses on alleged rights violations, for example, in cases of those seeking employment.
We can't force employers to hire a person with disabilities, but we can ensure that they're not hiring them on account of the disability.
He says they want to see more persons with disabilities joining the workforce.
I think it's probably a pretty timely message too, considering the need for labor, right? And I think one of the hardest things that I see is this presumption by employers or people in general that people with disabilities, on account of having a disability, you're suddenly not able to do jobs.
And that, he says, is often not the case.
We know from countless examples that the most severe, people with the most severe disabilities can do amazing things, right? Whether physical activity or whatever, white-collar jobs, whatever the case might be.
So while NMPASI cannot fight every fight for persons with disabilities, Rayfand says they will absolutely step in if rights are being violated.
We would definitely investigate that. I mean, that's precisely the kind of stuff that, first of all, I think some of the most important stuff that we do is we need to make sure that people aren't being turned away at the door.
And Greg Borhop, project specialist at NMPASI, adds they also want to make sure others aren't being turned away from needed services.
Some of the activities that we've been taking on lately is the appropriateness of services that are being given to people that are in facilities, places like the Department of Corrections or even at the Commonwealth Health Center.
According to Borhop, they will also work with those who are incarcerated or in other institutions.
Well, that's where our office can get involved, again, because people that are residing in those facilities typically have limited access to any type of advocacy work. And so again, because they have this a rights violation, basically the Patients' Rights Act or access to government services through the Americans with Disabilities Act, that's where our office can kind of step in and try to ensure we get these services out to our community and the people that need them.